30 UK fighters, trainers and experts have made their predictions for Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G. I'm going to read out all 30. Some of these are names you'll recognize, some of them are names you won't recognize. But the overall percentage of people picking Canelo or Triple G may surprise you. So I'm going to start off with, first of all, Anthony Yarde, the unbeaten light heavyweight prospect. Yarde says, Canelo wins a very tough fight, and I think there'll be a knockout. Alvarez has fought the bigger names on the bigger stages, and he's also got youth on his side. I also think he has the better boxing IQ. Golovkin's two biggest stages were his last two fights, and he didn't produce in either. Next person, Anthony Farnell, who's a former professional fighter himself and now a trainer. He's from Manchester. Anthony Farnell says, this can only be a great fight, and I believe Golovkin stops him. I love Canelo, but Golovkin hits too hard and is too good. If Triple G leaves his chin out like he did against Kell Brook and Danny Jacobs, he'll come a cropper. But when he fought David Lemieux and his back was against the wall, his jab was great, his defense was superb, and he just didn't get caught. I think he'll be similarly switched on against Canelo. People forget Golovkin was a brilliant amateur. He's got loads of attributes other than just power. It's a tough challenge, but I think he'll make it look a lot easier than people expect it to be. Next person, Dominic Ingle, the trainer based out of the famous Winkerbank gym in Sheffield. Trains people like Kell Brook, Billy Joe Saunders, etc. Dominic Ingle says, I'm going to say Canelo will pip Triple G at the post. He's younger, fresher, has less mileage. His last few fights haven't been as hard as Golovkin's. And he's not a small middleweight. Alvarez struggles with the weight. He's naturally a good bit bigger than Kell, and Golovkin couldn't drop Kell. I think he'll stand with Golovkin and have a scrap. Alvarez can take it as well as give it. Also, in his last two fights, Golovkin has shown vulnerabilities we previously hadn't seen. If anyone is to trip him up, it's Alvarez. I'll go with the Mexican on points, possibly a split decision. Next person, Derek Chisora. Chisora says, it'll be a good fight for sure, and I'm going to go with Alvarez, the man with the better skills, by stoppage. A pure puncher generally struggles against a quality boxer. Next person, Enzo Makranle, the former WBO Cruiserweight World Champion. He says, I expect an exceptional fight, and I tentatively go with Canelo. He's such an accurate counterpuncher, and I think he's picked the right time to take this fight, which has been mooted for a while. Oscar De La Hoya rarely makes mistakes. In his last two fights, Golovkin has lost a bit of that aura of invincibility he had. It's possible he underestimated Danny Jacobs, but he struggled with Jacobs' movement. Previously, he looked brilliant controlling David Lemieux, but Lemieux is nowhere near as good as Alvarez. Next person, Craig Evans, who is a world-rated lightweight. Evans says, I go with Canelo to pick him off and win on points. Golovkin walks forward and takes too many, while Alvarez delivers his shots very well. I don't think Golovkin is over the hill, but he got exposed a bit in his last two fights. It'll be a good fight, obviously. Next person, Daniel Dubois, undefeated heavyweight prospect. He says, I'm expecting a very good fight while it lasts, but I think Triple G carries the power to go through Canelo and stop him around the 9th or 10th. He's coming off a couple of bad nights at the office, but I expect him to rise to the occasion here. Next person, Derry Matthews, ex-WBA interim lightweight champion. Matthews says, I go with Golovkin in about 8 rounds. He's not shown his best for a while, but he'll get up for this, and if he's anything left, he'll win. Alvarez is brilliant at opening opponents up, but I don't think he possesses enough power to hurt Golovkin, and I expect he'll get beaten at his own game. Next person, Adam Booth, the famous former trainer of David Haye, George Groves, etc. Booth says, it'll 100% be a great fight, and my pound is with Canelo on points. Golovkin has an edge in brute power, and if Canelo tries to stay long, he'll get marched down. But I think Canelo is too bullish to let that happen. Alvarez is the more accomplished all-round and the more skilled up close. He's not easy to catch on the inside. It's Canelo's defensive ability that will be the key to him winning this fight. Next person, Gary Lockett, who is a fairly well-known coach in the UK and a former professional fighter himself. Gary Lockett says, I'm expecting Canelo to outmaneuver Golovkin. It's a young man's sport and Golovkin's not getting any younger. Alvarez appears to be improving with every fight, whereas a lot thought Golovkin lost to Danny Jacobs, a fighter who managed to keep him on the outside. We've not really seen Golovkin's chin tested. Curtis Stevens is a banger, but never really hit Gennady clean. Alvarez throws great combos, but also punches with enough power to hurt Triple G. Next person, Terry Flanagan, who is the current WBO lightweight champion. He says, tough one. It will be very exciting to watch. I'll go with Canelo on points in a very close fight. I've never seen either of them really hurt, so I doubt there'll be a knockout. Golovkin's got a good jab and underrated boxing ability. He's not just a powerhouse, but Canelo has improved massively since his loss to Floyd Mayweather, and I expect him to really target Golovkin's body. I see the judges giving all the close rounds to Canelo, whether he deserves them or not. Next person, Martin Bowers, who is a trainer based in London. He says, it'll be a cracking fight and it's really hard to call. Their styles are made for each other. I think youth is going to take over and Canelo will prevail, probably on points. I think he's getting Golovkin at just the right time. I like the way Golovkin conducts himself and he brings the edge in experience and power. But against Danny Jacobs, he seemed on the turn, battle-worn. He's already made his mark, made his money. Canelo can be reckless, but you've got to love his aggressive style and his attitude. I love his short work, and he always sells a fight well. To win, he has to push Golovkin onto the back foot, kill his space, smother his work. He's capable of that. He covers up and keeps his hands high. Next person, Liam Smith, who is the former WBO light middleweight world champion and a guy who has shared the ring with Canelo. Smith says, I think this is going to be an unbelievable fight for the fans. Both are real class acts. I edge to Canelo on points. I think he's now big enough to handle Golovkin's power and is superior to Triple G in most other departments. Next person, Liam Williams, who is the British light middleweight champion. Williams says, it's a pick'em fight, but I go Canelo, probably on points. He's the more skillful. I like his ring craft, shot selection, upper body movement. I expect them both to be wary over the first 4 to 6 rounds, but eventually it'll open up into a corker. Golovkin hasn't looked too great in his last 2. He could shine again, but I sense he's just gone over the top. Next person, Alan Smith, who is a trainer in London. Alan Smith says, easy one. I think Triple G will be far too good for Canelo. Alvarez couldn't stop Matthew Hatton and took a long time to break down Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a fighter who Triple G would have destroyed. You've got 2 kids who come forward, so it will be a great fight for the fans. I don't think Golovkin is over the top, as some are saying. You can't look great in every fight, and Alvarez has been around just as long and has had far more fights. Canelo has got impressive hand speed and Triple G isn't hard to hit, but he has an incredible chin. Golovkin wins because he's the tougher man, probably on points. Next person, Bradley Skeet, who is a world-ranked welterweight. Skeet says, Triple G for me. On current form, most seem to be going for Canelo, and he's certainly matured a lot since Mayweather scored him. But Golovkin has the better power and the better boxing brain. It will probably be cagey to start, but once it heats up, it will become proper lively. Golovkin's current form ain't good. He was poor against Danny Jacobs, so he's due a good one. I see him overpowering Alvarez and stopping him late. Next person, Jack Catterall, who is a world-ranked super lightweight. Catterall says, these are two greats whose styles should gel nicely. Both get stuck in and go to war, so hopefully there'll be fireworks. Golovkin has very heavy hands, but I fancy Canelo. I think he'll be far more comfortable up at middleweight. He's improved big time since he lost to Mayweather. He's got a good boxing brain, clever angles and footwork, plus his defense is good. Next person, Tommy Langford, who is the British middleweight champion. He says, mate, I keep chopping and changing. It's going to be a hell of a fight between two class acts. They're definitely going to meet. 12 months ago, I was 100% on Golovkin, but recently he's shown a little bit of age and started to neglect his good boxing. He just walked after Danny Jacobs and his defense was really poor against Kell Brook. If he defends like that against Alvarez, he'll get broken up and potentially stopped. Then again, the Golovkin that slaughtered David Lemieux turns up. If the Golovkin that slaughtered David Lemieux turns up, I'm going to go with Canelo. Based on the age of Golovkin and his last two performances, he'll not get away with that level against Alvarez. It's only a 51-49 pick, mind. Next person, Tunde Ajayi, who is a trainer based in London, trains at the Yard currently. Tunde Ajayi says, Canelo wins 1,000,000%. He's younger, fresher, the man on the up, has the better boxing IQ. People criticize him for being flat-footed, but I don't see that. You can't transfer the weight from your legs to your fists if you're bouncing around. But I think Alvarez's footwork is good. No way would Oscar De La Hoya risk his cash cow unless he was very certain. Golovkin's on the way down, and Canelo might even stop him in the final third. Next person, Josh Lever, who is an undefeated light welterweight prospect. He says, I can't wait for it. They're both really powerful and have great chins, so I think it will go the distance. They'll go toe-to-toe for 12 rounds and batter each other with body shots. It's a hard one to pick. Alvarez is much younger and more frisky, but I go for Triple G based on the strength and power he's got. He drains every opponent down with his pressure. Next person, Jamie Conlan, who is a world-rated super flyweight. He says, this has to be the best fight in boxing at the minute. For me, Canelo wins. I always rated Golovkin as the best fighter in the world, but now he's taking too many, just to prove he's a hard man. Danny Jacobs showed the problems Golovkin has with his feet, and Alvarez hits far harder than Danny Jacobs does. Canelo has the ability to control the distance and keep the fight at range. Stop him? Not a chance. Golovkin eats punches for fun. Next person, Joe Gallagher, aka Splinter from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's a fairly well-renowned and well-known trainer from Manchester. Joe Gallagher says, I change my mind every couple of days, but I go with Canelo. I think he's been in with and beaten the better class of opposition, guys like Lara and Austin Trout. Even the loss to Mayweather was a great education for him, and that was before he matured into a man. By contrast, Golovkin hasn't had good dance partners. He's not really been in with any of the top guys. Lemieux and Danny Jacobs are about the best he's fought. Triple G brings the better amateur pedigree. It's possible he beats Canelo with his feet, and he'll be keen to deliver the big drama show. Anyone he hits clean around the temple, he'll put on Queer Street. Perhaps Danny Jacobs has knocked some of the complacency out of him. But for me, Canelo is better at mid-range, better at long range, and hits frighteningly hard to the body. Alvarez on points. There's no way Golovkin wins a decision against a Golden Boy fighter in Vegas. Next person, Leon Woodstock, who is an undefeated super featherweight prospect from the UK. He says, I have no idea. I can't decide. Canelo could box his head off, or conversely, Golovkin could knock Alvarez out at any time. I want Canelo, so I'll go with him. I like how he is as a person, and he's definitely the better technician. Golovkin is a bit one-dimensional, doesn't have as much in his arsenal. You can't imagine him on his toes. Danny Jacobs exposed some weaknesses. Alvarez has got great head movement, good feet, and he's patient. He waits for his shots, chooses the right steps. Next person, Peter Fury. We all know Peter Fury. He is the uncle and trainer of Tyson Fury and also his son, Hughie Fury, among other fighters. Peter Fury says, I see a 12-round fight, and if Golovkin boxes, he wins. If he goes for a KO, he risks walking onto shots and Alvarez hits hard enough to knock him out. Golovkin's not invincible, he's only a man. I favour Golovkin to dominate because he's the naturally bigger man, but if he decides to have a tear-up, it will be Canelo's night. Next person, Barry Jones, who is a former world champion, former professional fighter himself, and a pretty well-known boxing commentator and pundit these days on Box Nation. Barry Jones says, it's a genuine 50-50. Much has been made of the Kazakh's subpar performance last time, but Alvarez has a very different style to Danny Jacobs. He should suit Triple G better. Canelo has great judgment of distance and excellent timing, but I think he'll need to be more fleet-footed here because Golovkin will land anywhere and hurt you. Though Canelo is the more versatile and can adapt quicker, Golovkin never really needs to adapt. Tactically, you'd say Alvarez needs to hold his feet and back Golovkin up, but when fighters hold their feet against Triple G, they usually end up on the floor. Alvarez is a warrior, but he might start to feel sorry for himself when he realizes he can't budge Golovkin, just as he felt sorry for himself when Floyd Mayweather repeatedly made him miss. I edge marginally to Golovkin because of his power, but both are real fighters, so the sport doesn't lose whichever way it pans out. Next person, Paddy Barnes, who is an ex-double Olympic flyweight medalist. Paddy Barnes says, I go Golovkin. He's extremely tough and technically much better. I love his Eastern European style. He carries serious KO power and has a granite chin. I like Alvarez, he's fast and the way he puts his punches together is very exciting, plus he's Mexican and he's ginger. But whereas Kell Brook and Danny Jacobs fight in a certain elusive way, Canelo Alvarez will try to match fire with fire, and that will be his downfall. He's very good, but I think Golovkin is on a different level and will stop him. Next person, Josh Warrington, who is a world-rated featherweight. Warrington says, Canelo, he's the better boxer and has the better boxing brain. He's younger, fresher, more intelligent. Canelo will need to box smart, go back foot and try to draw Triple G in. It will be entertaining because there will be times when he has to meet Golovkin head on. Triple G is the bigger puncher and can be quite subtle, but likes to ship punishment. I'd not say a stoppage is out of the question. Both know how to finish. Next person, Joe Pickford, who is an undefeated super welterweight prospect. Pickford says, it's a really close fight. Both are very exciting. If anyone can beat Golovkin, it's Canelo. He's come on loads of late and beaten top people. He's got very good skills. Obviously, Golovkin carries a knockout punch, but his boxing ability is very underrated. He's been at the top for a long time now and didn't look great last time, so I go Canelo on points. Next person, Liam Walsh, who is the British super featherweight champion. Walsh says, I'm really looking forward to this. Alvarez is one of my favourite fighters. He can do everything. But I think Golovkin has got the edge. I don't expect an all-out brawl like most are predicting. Golovkin has a great jab, is a great judge of distance. He was unbelievable against David Lemieux. I expect him to be more cautious than he's been in his last two fights and break Alvarez up with his jab. And finally, the last person to do a prediction on this is Gary Corcoran, the British welterweight contender. Corcoran says, Golovkin will be too powerful. He wasn't really up for his last two fights, but he'll be up for this. I fear Alvarez might be a bit too small. So far, he's shown a very good chin, but who's he been hit by? Certainly no one like Golovkin. Triple G wins a very good fight, probably on points. So there you go. 30 UK fighters, trainers, and experts. Those were their predictions. The final result, in terms of the prediction split, 11 of them picked Golovkin to win. 19 of them have picked Canelo Alvarez to win. So 2/3 of this group of people are picking Canelo Alvarez. A little surprising to me. I thought it would maybe be slightly in favor of Golovkin. 50-50, perhaps, but 2/3 picking Alvarez. I'm surprised there are so many people siding with Alvarez here. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, people. What are your predictions, and are you surprised by any of these predictions? I mean, you've got some pretty prominent people picking Canelo. You know, Dominic Ingle, he's picking Canelo. Derek Chisora's picking Canelo. You got Adam Booth picking Canelo. You know, many fighters here who are top fighters are picking Canelo. So, interesting. Peter Fury picking Golovkin on points. You know, quite a few people picking Golovkin. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below anyway, people. It's Hatman, I'm out.